name's Spande. I'm the plant manager of the Bowling Green assembly plant. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so you guys really couldn't hear me before, but you're just too polite, except for that guy. He asked anything. So the material that I've prepared today, I've got just a little bit about the factory, some background information, and then I end with some slides about the new paint shop. And so I thought that it would be of interest for people to see some pictures about what's going on inside this big white and silver box that we have over by the plant. And then, as usual, I like to have the conversation interactive. So if any time during the during the event, if you have a question or you'd like some further information, just raise your hand, and maybe Paul can run around and or I can repeat the question and we can have that. It might be more interesting for everybody that way. Okay, so with that said, who here has been inside the plant on a tour? Probably everybody here. All right, so it would have been easier to say who hasn't been on the tour. Who's been on the tour more than 10 times? All right, so that's a question that at least separates the group. So some of you have been, all of you have been inside the plant. Some of you may know these statistics, and this is kind of the day in the life of some of what Kai has to deal with. We've got a pretty good, this would be a small farm, 212 acres. We have a shift model, what we call it. We work basically Monday through Friday, based on an 8-hour shift, which is of course first shift, which we start at 6:12. We run up, but because of after the start of the production of C7, we've been running at maximum capacity, which is about 170 cars a day. We make, you can see there, about 17 cars an hour by design, and that gets us to about a 10-hour shift. Now we're running about a 9-hour shift. We've made some improvements to move things a little bit quicker, but that's what we have. We do have some second and third shift operations, but they're basically designed to fill up buffers and help support the general assembly area. A couple other things. We've got roughly 1,000 people. So 1,000 people includes all of the production workers, the skilled trades, the salary organization, and contractors. Contractors in this case, it's not like a construction. It's maybe some janitorial, some of these service type jobs that we have inside the facility. And that makes for, it's 1,000 people. People think that the Corvette plant is small relative to these numbers from a people standpoint. It's about the same density of people as you would see in a very large facility, because what we have is 1,000 people to run one shift. If you would simply multiply that times 3, you'd have about the same, and that's one of our big assembly plants. The biggest difference in the Corvette plant compared to another assembly plant, that number of 17 up there would be around 60. So we make cars about 4 times slower on an hourly basis as any of our other plants. In fact, this week I spent a day out in our Fairfax facility, which is in Kansas, where we make a brand new Malibu, which is a great product. That facility runs 60 a day. So what we make in the course of one day, they're done before 9 o'clock in the morning. So that's one of the differences. And actually, when you think about it, it creates a big challenge for our workforce, because that simple idea that it's 60 versus 17 means that the people that are putting together the cars that you guys all know and love, they have to understand and know 4 times the amount of information. It makes the jobs, it's not 4 times as difficult. The statistics would say it's about 16 times difficult, because it's kind of a squared function to know and be able to retain. So the people that we have it requires a lot more training to be able to do those jobs. Okay, economic impact, and this is some interesting information. This is simply the money that we pay the people out of our budget, and this does not include all of the ancillary material handling or any suppliers. This is just the people cost in our facility. So this has a huge impact into the Bowling Green area and the community, which is very good. It's a great community, and I would also say that we have a very, very good workforce. We have hired a number of individuals this year, and part of the standardized work that our staff has when we bring new people into the plant, hourly worker, production workers, they go through training, they go through structured training, they go through on-the-job training, they start working with the teams, and then the staff, including myself, when these individuals have been there for a month. Again, as an example, myself, I go out and I talk to one of the new individuals that's in the line doing work and ask them, are you okay? Do you have what you need? Do you feel safe? Do you have any questions about the product, about quality, and how are things going? It's kind of the friendly atmosphere that we like to have, and I'm sure that if you guys have been in the plant, you can feel a little bit of that. For sure, at the end of the day, it is extremely important that we're all disciplined in what we do. But how you get things done, I think, is important, and we try to have that perspective in our plan. Okay, everybody in the room could probably teach this slide or present this slide. This is the Stingray, this is the Z06 Coupe and Convertible, and of course, July 11th, we officially started full production of the 2017 model year, which is also the start of the Grand Sport, and that's right now doing very, very well. We do have plans, actually in the middle of September, we will be starting production of the Z06. There's a few Z06s. Actually, I was out in Carlisle over the weekend, as was a number of individuals from the Chevrolet team, Corvette team, and we had a few. So that the silk has come off of the cover. The silk cover has come off of this car, relating to what the new content is for the Z06, and that was shared with the public last Friday and Saturday. Okay, who owns a Grand Sport? So I know and who owns a C7 Grand Sport? 1, 2, 2. Okay, luckiest people in the room, maybe. But it is a great car. You guys all know what this car is and what it means to Corvette. It's a great combination, and we're very excited about that. Regarding our production schedules, we have had a gap in the startup of the Grand Sport and the Stingray, and now the Z06. And some of you have known, as we take a look at our powertrain operations, when I landed, it was exactly 1 year ago and 1 day, so Paul was close, but I actually came here, and this was like the second day on the job. They stuck me in front of a group, not dissimilar than yourself, to introduce myself, and well, that was fine. At that time, we were making only the LT4 engines by hand in Bowling Green for the Z06s with the Z07 package. And my background is powertrain, and I looked at that and I said, that's not right. We're going to do more. And before we ended the 2016 model year, we were producing all of the Z06 LT4 engines in our house, which means that we had to add a shift. And going back and talking about what we call takt time, or roughly, the 17 jobs an hour in the performance build center to build one engine is 2.5 hours. So it's a tremendous amount of investment. We did that. We added another shift, and we were producing all the LT4s. We didn't have the LT4s because we were waiting on some issues with the Z06. So we are producing the LT1s also. So we have been, and we are today, producing roughly 50 LT1s a day. And as we start up the production of the Z06, then we're just going to switch over to the LT4, the supercharged engine. And this, in a way to think, is simply product or portfolio diversification. I was talking with my material leaders today, and I said, this is not what it was a year ago. We've changed it, we've doubled the capacity, and now we have a mix of engines where we will never have a situation where we can't keep everybody fully employed. And what that means is that there are some lucky people out there you would have to dig a little bit to find, but there is an EIN number, the engine number. There are Grand Sports that are roaming around out there with engines hand-built in the PVC in Bowling Green. That's a little secret, but we didn't want to lay people off. We want to keep them busy, and it's a long-term play. And that's kind of the way I like to think about things. Okay, moving to the paint shop. This is the, of course it's a graphic representation of the paint shop. In the upper right-hand corner, your right hand, my upper, my left, my upper, your right. See how I can catch on so quick on some of these things? That's kind of where you come into the plant. So if you would come in to visit the facility, you would come in from that direction and you see the facility that is white, maybe the beige area. That's where we have some shipping docks. It's a new area, and then the part that's even higher and to your left, that's the existing facility. So you can see kind of how the facility has come together, and this graphical representation then gets to, this is a different perspective, but you can see, look for the water tower or the water tanks that we see. This is something that you drive by. This is where it has the big, Corvette, home of the Corvette logo. And then the front of the plant is actually down by my feet. You can see in the back of the facility all these little white dots. Of course, those are Corvettes covered, ready to be shipped. And then you can see this massive expansion. And then this picture was taken in July, but since then, the facility is completely, what I like to refer to as dried in. So that roof is completed. The insulation is, for the most part, completed. And the siding is on, all but the areas that are left open, these side panel penetration areas for where the various equipment is going to come in. So in the matter of 1 year, a little bit more, maybe 1.5 years, we broke ground. It was 6 months worth of simply dynamiting every day. At 11 o'clock and 4 o'clock, we were dynamiting the limestone. What made the sinkhole over here, likes to make sinkholes everywhere in Kentucky, and we actually found 5 or 6 sinkholes, not to the magnitude that we had here, but it's known technology how you fix those once you find them. But nonetheless, we did a lot of blasting, and then we started pouring the concrete foundations. The first piece of steel went up in December, and so really in the matter of 8 months, we went from the first piece of steel to the complete building with an unbelievable amount of steel, an unbelievable amount of concrete, and actually an unbelievable amount of workers. I've asked the question just 2 weeks ago when I was taking a tour to look at the facility and look at a number of things. I asked the construction team how many people they have that are working on the new paint shop on a daily basis, and it's 3 shifts, so we're round the clock, 6 days a week, sometimes 7 if we need to catch up, and the number was over 800. So I have more people every day working on the construction of the paint shop than we have in the plant putting Corvettes together. It gives you an idea about the scope of this facility. And you can see the size. I mean, when you look at the size of the little Corvettes down there, the little white trinkets there, and up in the upper, kind of in the upper center part, that's what we refer to as the trailer park, all the construction trailers for the individuals, the leadership, the engineering plans, etc., planners that are working there. So we have what would be a small city there that we're working on. Okay, so this is, I tried to go out and pick some pictures of what's going on inside the factory to complement Paul's question, to actually prove that yes, we are building a paint shop in this facility. Almost $500 million paint shop. But this is one of the booths. So paint shop, booth, conveyors, and as you can see here, here's another prime booth. If I have a laser here, I do. So if you look right up here, these are actually robots, and they're hung up on a gantry system. So it's like a huge metal rail here, and these robots will, as the cars go by on a conveyor buck that we call it, where the panels are set on, the robots then will come down and they'll paint the car so that all of the area on the floor is basically clear for maintenance activities, etc. And the car needs to take up that space. All of these systems, the paint is designed to be applied and then it's downdrafted And so that is the reason for all of the grading that you have here, because underneath that are plenums where the unused paint will go. And then this is something very similar where we have another booth, and this is what you see is underneath. So this is the working grade of the shop, and then this represents what's under this, if that makes sense. So under all of the paint booths, which are very large, there is a basement that then all of the, like I said, the plenums or the ducting goes into for the air handling. Okay.
Kai, how many paint booths in the new facility?
Okay, so the question is, how many paint booths do we have? We will have, we have priming booths, we have color booths, and we have clear booths. And so we have 2 parallel systems for each one of those. So there will be a total of 6. Yeah. And a lot of robots that'll go in place. And actually, you've gotten it perfectly timed. I don't have a lot of slides here, but I've got questions. So this is your perfect time. Yeah, another question.
Is there water in the pits below?
So the question is there water in the pits? And the answer is no. We use water-based paint. We use it now. We will use water-based paint in the future. It's really industry standard. It's very ecologically friendly. But we're going to use a new technology that is very modern, where we have basically a crushed limestone that is applied to, if you can imagine, if you understand how a dust collector works, it's just a series of filters. We apply this very finely crushed limestone to the filter elements. The paint moves through and is attached to that limestone, and then we take that limestone off and we replace it. And that process eliminates the need for water, which eliminates the need for sludge system, which eliminates the need to use literally tens of thousands of gallons of water to simply filter the air. Because right now, in our existing paint shop and many paint shops, we run the paint, the air that has paint in it through a water washing system, and the water takes the paint out. We won't use that in the future. So this is going to be just one more first in GM. Corvette gets it, and that's great. And I got to figure out how to start it up. You guys will never know. You guys will never know unless you come and visit me. We'll see. One other point that's of interest is that we will be having tours go through the new paint shop. We have made, anybody ever remember Shakey's Pizza? You know, some people, depending on maybe where you live in the country. This is a place where I remember as a kid, you could go and you could walk up and there was glass panels and you can watch them make pizzas. And we will have that for the new paint shop. So during the part of the process where we have color being applied to the panels, we will be able to see in a protected area, so you don't have to have all of the garb that's required. You'll be able to see the color applied to the cars, which will be kind of cool. Yeah.
Kai, how tough is it to integrate the new paint shop with the existing assembly plant? Do you have to reconfigure the layout?
Yeah, so it is going to be a challenge. The terms that I use are sunrises and sunset. So the sun will have to set eventually on the existing paint shop. The sun will have to rise on the new paint shop, and how we do that is very well thought out. We will start, and by the way, we will be making cars with panels from both paint shops for maybe 9 months. And that's just because of the development time that it takes to make all of the, I call them recipes, for every specific color. Every specific color has to be matched. We make panels off the car. We buy rear view mirrors. We buy B92 hoods. We have spoilers that are colored that come in. We need to make sure that we match all of that. It doesn't happen by chance. So it takes time. And it also takes, you need to move parts through. So when we start the new facility, we will start with the most common color that we manufacture right now, which is white. which is about 20% of all the cars, at least for the last few years. And then once we co-produce white, we will get to a point where then we'll start taking a new color, a new color, a new color, a new color. And as we start these new ones, then we'll take them offline on the existing facility. What we can't have is, oh, we've got a little problem, and now we can't make a white car without an option. And if we did that, and other factories in the company do that, it means that we would have a significant break in production, which isn't part of the plan. So to integrate the panels coming from the new shop, panels coming from the old shop, yeah, that's going to be a little bit of a trick.
Next question here.
Yep.
Is the intent of the paint shop to eliminate the orange peel problem, or to boost capacity, or the number of colors, or cut costs? And what are you going to do with the old paint shop area once it's done? Boost production capability?
Okay, so just to make sure everybody's leveled up, the question's in around what's the motivation for the new shop, right? And the motivation, number one, is that we have the oldest paint shop in North America right now. So we need to increase we need to do something. And what we do will make a big improvement in the paint quality. And I'll give you specific reasons why it will make an improvement in quality. Number one, I refer to this as low and slow. The panels that we produce, that we paint, are SMC plastics and carbon fiber, and they do not like heat when they're painted. Heat is what's used to help make them, and there's resins in these, and if they get too warm, when the paint isn't cured, these resins can start to come out, making paint imperfections. So the paint, as we apply it, we need to apply it very slow because we don't have the advantage of a metal panel with high electrostatic capabilities. So we need to apply it thin coats, finely atomized. Very good 3 or 4 questions in there.
Yeah, what are you going to do with the old paint shop?
Okay,
Disassemble it.
Okay, so the question is, what will we do with the old paint shop? And if you're familiar with the plan, we're almost on the opposite ends of the facility for the new and the old. We will go into the old paint shop a little bit with our powertrain projects, because remember, we have $440 million of paint shop investment. We've announced $44 million for powertrain, $2 million for a solar array, and now recently $290 for other process improvements. So when we get into the powertrain part, which is right by the PBC, we're going to go into that area and take some of the space. The rest of it will be environmentally kind of neutralized. We'll go and clean everything up that we need to. It's some pretty big and heavy stuff. So to repurpose it would be very expensive, and at this point we don't have any plans. So we'll tear it out what we can. We'll make sure that it's okay environmentally, and then it'll stay where it is. Okay, next question. Yep, it's kind of hard for me to see, but I saw a hand go up.
Will the thickness of the paint or the clear change with the new process?
So no, by design, while we haven't done all of the development, and we won't until we have the new facility up and running, although we are doing some testing work at some of the OEMs in Michigan. By design, the paint won't change in overall thickness. Yeah.
Question.
Yep, in the middle.
I know that there were 4 colors dropped from what was offered in 16. And I also heard a little conversation about you only allowed 3 colors to be dropped per year, and that's why the Admiral Blue came out for some of the 16 models. And I know the Watkins Glen Gray is already being produced.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the ramp up for the other 2 new colors, which I guess are Black Rose and Sterling Blue?
They're both in production now.
Oh, they are.
Yep, Black Rose started last week, and the Sterling Blue has been in production for a while.
And they're actually in dealer showrooms.
Well, the Black Rose is not, because we
The
started
Sterling
painting
Blue
cars.
I had.
The Sterling Blue is.
Yeah.
You can order either one now. In fact, I had an email conversation with a customer who ordered a Black Rose, and it's going to be built next Tuesday, and wanted to know when they could come on a tour to see the car. And I said, I can commit to a lot of things, but I'm not going to commit for you to come on a tour and see your car.
So a follow-up question to that, all the colors are available, or soon will be. When will you start in the new paint shop, painting the first production?
Okay,
panels?
that's a good question. We will, in the April timeframe of next year, we will start exercising the equipment and getting that all up and running mechanically, and then start working on process development. Our intent, which I hope that we can do earlier, but that we would be ready for the 2018 model year, which would be in the middle of next year. So it takes a lot of work. And maybe a little preemptive question regarding colors, as you brought them up. You know, we're making 10 colors now, and we always change things. And I don't know, I think I saw Harlan come in here. He's our favorite guy for coming up with new color combinations that all of you know and love, and then want so quickly. But that's what we do, and that's cool. So what will we have for a capability for the number of colors in the new shop? And the answer is this: we will start with 10, and we'll have the ability to go up a little bit. We'll have facilities for 12, and we have some white space that we call it, which is some empty space that we could add some mixing stations, and then add the plumbing to increase the number. Is Harlan in the room?
Right here.
Okay. How many colors would you want to have available to a customer at any given time?
How many people in here?
Great. One per color. It gets to be, actually in Carlisle, there was a person that asked, well, you know, can you bring back any of the legacy color, you know, Lamont blue, or, you know, Glenwood green, something like this. And it's just not that easy, because these really low penetration colors, or a custom color, the way we paint a car, we would have to do all that development work, which could be $500,000 and a lot of time. If you do it for one, it doesn't matter if you paint one car or 1,000,000 cars. You have to do the development work, and you have to work with the vendors and all the suppliers that are bringing in the rear view mirrors and all these paint parts that come and painted. They have to get ready. It's not insignificant. And this was an infomercial for Harlan. But he knows that. He knows it better than I do, for sure.
As you move to do the new paint jobs in the new paint shop, what are you going to do with those test panels?
Well, what we do with test panels in process development, number one, we repaint them. And not for production use, but we will test paint panels maybe 4 or 5 times. We get to a film thickness where then we have to get rid of them. Maybe we even have like little metal plates or plastic. It would be plastic plates that we would attach different parts of the panels if they have too much paint on them, where we can simulate and look at the film thicknesses for primers, for colors, for clears, etc. We take those off, we section them, we look at them sideways and see how the layering and all of that's worked. But if the question goes to, we try to minimize that. They're very expensive, especially when you start talking about a hood, carbon fiber hood. But unfortunately, some of those will be consumed in the process of launching the facility. And no, they won't be made available to anybody.
Well, I'm going over to the gentleman over here with his hand up. I'll ask a question. The limestone filters that you were talking about that you're using instead of the water baths, are they disposable after everything dries, and you can easily dispose of them in landfills?
Yeah, so the limestone that is then impregnated with the after paint, or the paint that goes by the product, has a beneficial reuse component to it. There are people that would take that and maybe reuse it in concrete or different types of applications. At the very least, it would go to a landfill. But even in that would be the worst case. And usually, because I have some experience in this in different parts of the business, a lot of it gets into how much are you going to have. So if somebody wants it for a beneficial reuse, you have to be able to have if they're using it for a production application, you have to have enough that makes it worth their while.
Thank you.
I was wondering if there are plans to produce body panels.
Reduce the number of body panels?
produce body panels in the new shop?
Oh, no, we will not produce any body panels in the new shop. We did have one change though, our fascias, since you asked, our fascias, the front and rear fascias used to be produced in our Spring Hill facility. And now we have a supplier that's producing those for us, so we moved the tools over. Some of you may know Spring Hill, that's south of Nashville. We produce a number of different vehicles there, including the new XT5, and they moved their capacity and their facility around a little bit, and the byproduct was that our parts are now coming from a supplier, which has worked pretty seamlessly in the last few months. The big issue around making our panels is that we're such a low volume supplier, you could barely buy a machine. You know, the utilization of the machine would just be really, really, really bad, which just doesn't make sense for us. Anything else? Questions? Right in the center here.
You mentioned the 290 million for...
Million.
Huh?
Million.
Million, yeah.
Yeah.
For process improvements, what types of process improvements?
This information was also housed in the server that... Now, this was what Hillary might say. If I was Trump, I would say, Paul, get him the hell out of here.
So depending on who is elected next year for the bash, we might have Hillary here to answer those questions, so we know it was on the servers, or we will have a bunch of big people escorting us the hell out of here. It all depends on your vote.
Sorry.
Any other questions?
It's okay. You must appreciate the position that I have. I can't talk about those things. I can joke about them.
And we do appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay,
Questions?
well, if there's no more questions,
One
there's
back here.
one right
Franny.
here.
When did you say that the tours will start for the paint shop and when that happened?
I didn't, but that's a good way to trick me. The tours, you know, to be very realistic, we have to balance between getting the new shop up and running and not have a bunch of, you know, it's kind of like building a house. Before you invite somebody to dinner, you need to make sure that, you know, everything is working as it should. If you really, really pushed me and said, when is it going to be? I would probably say that it would have to be in the early 2018 calendar year, which means we get the 18 model year cars coming up, and then you give us a few months to get our ducks in a row, so to speak, and then we can open that up. But it's really too early to say. I give you that answer just so you can kind of understand the thought process. Yeah.
Yeah, what's changed in the storage and delivery process of finished Corvettes based on the issues that were in the cold winter where they had all the cracked tire issues? Has anything changed there?
From a delivery standpoint, we still deliver. I know that we've had in Harlan, maybe you can help me with this one. The tires have been reformulated, and you're talking specifically about cup tires, but the delivery of those vehicles.
Yeah, well, basically, cars were showing up. I mean, you had a storage area in the back of your plant.
Yeah.
You got sub-zero temperatures. Cars were, put on the tractor trailers and delivered, and they arrived at dealer showrooms with big cracks in their tires. And
Yeah, we didn't have problems this last year while I was in
This was really something that happened more when we launched the Z06 for 2015, and when we had like one of the coldest winters in Bowling Green we ever had, and then we also have our quality whole process we were launching. So it's kind of like a worst case storm. What do you call that?
Perfect storm.
Perfect storm. Thank you. Perfect storm. Anyway, it was so we had a combination of a lot of Z06s, a lot of cup tires, a lot of cars in the cold weather, and then they were, when you start them up, but the tires are below freezing, is when you get that issue. Now that we're in normal production, we haven't really had very many of those issues going forward. Most of the car dealers store their cars indoors, and most people aren't just, we don't have this big lot full of Z06s that we were waiting to launch with, so in the worst weather possible. So I think in general, we may say one or two once in a while, and we cover that in warranty, but it hasn't been the issue we had when we launched back then.
Okay, anything else?
One more here.
When will the C8s be, make our C7s?
You're gonna make me go Trump up.
Obsolete?
Can I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead.
The C8s will do that the day after the C7 production ceases. How'd I do?
Ask Carlin, I can't comment on that. Yeah, and like I said, we're not gonna comment on anything from a future standpoint. You need to know, looking at the Grand Sport, looking at our history of the car, of which I've known for a long time, but I've been directly involved for a year. We're always working on stuff. You know, the new supercharger on the Z06, which has an intercooler, it's more complicated than that. Additional cooling for all manual Grand Sport Z51 and Z06. The car's always evolving. And so, you know, to maintain our position where we are, that's the model. So with that, I think